It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman, and you can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting if you just email me directly at Opperman Investigations. Now, our guest today, this is a historic interview. Our guest today is William Hamilton, and he is the creator of the Inslaw.com, the Promis software. You may have heard the story. We've done some shows about this in the past with Ted Rubenstein, just trying to explain this complicated story that at one point was described as the octopus by journalist Danny Casolaro, who met an untimely demise. But this is the first interview with William Hamilton, the man at the center of this story. Mr. William Hamilton, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, I know we've already been talking for about 20 minutes, so I know there's going to be some great content here. Before we get into the whole Inslaw, Promis, octopus, this whole crazy story that you've lived your life firsthand, tell us about yourself. Who is William Hamilton?
I'm the third oldest of 12 children. My wife and I have 6 adult children now, of course, and 17 grandchildren. I graduated from the University of Notre Dame as an English literature major and went to work for NSA, where I worked for 7 years. And then I went to work for a public accounting firm in their management consulting department and answered a request for proposals to develop a case management software system for the local prosecutor's office in D.C., which I named. And it was well thought of, and it was soon used in many state and local prosecutors' offices across the country.
Yeah, your audio dropped there for a second. You named it Inslaw?
The company, yeah.
Oh, you're right. And the software was named Inslaw or Promis?
No, Promis.
Promis. Okay, yeah. Your audio dropped there for a second. Okay. So then you received you answered a request for a bid to design this software. That's
right. And then I named it Promis, yeah.
Gotcha. Now, I was wondering this. Now, at the time, because clearly now, you're a savvy guy. You're in touch with all these people, Elliot Richardson, and he was the attorney. But at the time, how did you get that contract? Did you hire lobbyists, or you just like off the shelf?
No,
really,
just off the shelf. I was interested in the courts. I thought about going to law school, and so it was something I had a pre-existing interest in. Not Promis, and not case management, but courts. The legal system,
right.
And so I just wrote the proposal, and the request for proposal came from the D.C. government because the local D.C. does not have home rule, and the local prosecutor is a division of the U.S. Attorney's Office. And so the D.C. government's Office of Crime Analysis issued the request for proposals. I wrote the proposal. It was a competitive procurement, and we won it.
And it was like a $10 million contract, right?
No, not that.
No.
That was much smaller.
Okay.
And so after it was finished, I went to work for the U.S. Attorney's Office as an independent contractor to try to improve the software, because it was the first time anybody had done something like this. And so there were a lot of opportunities to make it better,
Okay. And how old were you at that time?
Well, I had worked already 7 years after graduating from college. I guess you graduate from college around early 20s, right?
Right. About 30 years old is what I was figuring, yeah.
Yeah, probably. That sounds right.
Okay, so you're working for the U.S. Attorney's Office as a contractor.
Right.
And you designed this software, and I guess that's where the issues came in with the litigation, right? That they claim that they owned it.
Oh no, I think that was all baloney.
Okay.
The most telling thing is that one of the lawyers who represented Inslaw, Roderick Hills, we had retained because he was a very prominent business lawyer, and we needed to get the Justice Department to agree that when the Justice Department liquidated under the Carter administration,
yeah,
the one that had been financing the development of Promis was called the U.S. Law Enforcement Assistance Administration. When the Carter administration decided to liquidate that agency, we retained Roderick Hills to figure out what do we do, because you have to continue to invest money in software or it loses its value over time, you know?
Sure.
And the Law Enforcement Assistance Administration was disappearing. So where was the money going to come from for the inevitable upkeep and upgrade, you know? And so Roderick Hills went to the Justice Department and asked the Deputy Attorney General, Stan Morris, for a letter confirming that the Justice Department would not object to Inslaw creating a for-profit proprietary derivative of the software containing privately financed enhancements and licensing it to users for a fee across the country. And the Justice Department took 5 months thinking about it. So Rod Hill said, you can't let them hold hostage the future of your company. And so he said, I think whether they like it or not, the copyright law gives Inslaw exclusive, as the author of every version of Promis, the exclusive rights, copyright rights to the software.
Gotcha.
And I think I should have our copyright lawyers at Latham, Watkinson Hills do a legal opinion on that subject. And he did that, and they confirmed that was true. And then Rod Hills said, I think I should have our copyright lawyers deliver a copy of this legal opinion to the top copyright lawyer at the Justice Department so that everybody understands the law. He was a very smart lawyer, you know. And so he did it. The top copyright lawyer's name was Vito Di Pietro in the civil division of the Justice Department. And he, not surprisingly, agreed. It is the law, you know. But most lawyers, in fact, wouldn't know something that technical, you know.
Sure.
And the amendments to the U.S. copyright law spelled all of this out years ago. But most people, as I'm saying, would never had an occasion to learn any of that stuff, even lawyers.
And I guess when you're going up against the federal government, even if you have the law on your side, if they want something, it's an uphill battle. Right.
Yeah, and particularly if they give you a clue at the under the Brooks Act, which was named after Congressman Jack Brooks, any agency of the executive branch of the federal government that ever wanted to buy a piece of software had to apply in advance to the General Services Administration, GSA, and get what's called a delegation of procurement authority to do so. because the GSA had exclusive authority over the federal government's purchase of computer software for years. And at one point, the General Accounting Office did a report criticizing GSA and criticizing the Office of Management and Budget under the Carter administration for failing to provide leadership to federal agencies to stop reinventing the software wheel and start purchasing prepackaged application software products. Because every time if it's a common function of the government like case management or personnel, it's kind of silly to commission someone to develop the software from scratch each time. It's very expensive to do that and error prone.
And it also seems too that they're the crappiest softwares out there. Like with the whole thing with the the healthcare.gov. When it first came out, it was Obama's former buddy, his college roommate or something. It's always like a deal like that, which is how I wondered how you got this deal. It seems like Roderick Hills, he was plugged in to get this kind of deal pushed through. Yeah.
Well, he was a very smart lawyer.
Yeah.
Like Elliot Richardson was.
Elliot Richardson, by the way, if the audience doesn't know, that's the Saturday Night Massacre from Watergate. There's Elliot Richardson who designed. That's right. Yeah. Under protest, right. Resigned.
Yeah. He had a lot of integrity and very bright. Just like we were blessed to have several extremely bright lawyers with integrity. Kind of an unusual combination.
Especially in D.C., with this bunch. Okay.
Yeah.
So then take us through this. Now, you're going back and forth with the government about do you own it, don't you own it, do you have the copyright on it, are you allowed to sell it? What happens next?
Oh, what we didn't really have to go back and forth. Because he got a letter from the Deputy Attorney General's office confirming that they don't object to what we're planning to do.
Okay.
And that was after the internal legal opinion I told you about from Broad Hill's law firm, and after they had given a copy of that internal legal opinion to Vito DiPietro, and after, unbeknownst to us, Vito DiPietro had confirmed it in an internal legal opinion to the top internal contracts lawyer at the Justice Department, where he explained what the law is, the copyright law, and how it affects Inslaw's copyright rights, and that Inslaw had exclusive copyrights under the copyright law as the author of every version of Promis, just what Hills had said, and that the government's rights were limited to whatever data rights they had negotiated in the individual contracts with Inslaw. And they never negotiated any. So they had no rights. They never sought to negotiate any, But it was an invaluable thing to have this Vito DiPietro, who I had never heard of, issue a internal legal opinion. We didn't even know he did it. And we found out about it in litigation discovery in the bankruptcy court. And Justice tried to keep that copy of that legal opinion from us because it's pretty dispositive, And the court, we did a motion to compel production to the bankruptcy judge, and he granted production. And that's how we know about it.
How did it wind up in bankruptcy? How did you wind up in bankruptcy court?
Because the government withheld millions of dollars under that $10 million contract to put Promis in major cities of the U.S. attorney's offices in big cities across the country. And they withheld on purpose millions of dollars in order to force us into Chapter 11. And then we assume they were going to force us into liquidation. There could be an auction of the software, and it could be purchased by friends of the administration in power.
Wow.
Because it could be make a fortune, you know?
Gotcha.
And,